Well, I want to talk about smart beta again today. Now, I do have some other videos on smart beta, and you can check those out by following these links here. Today, I want to talk about the hidden exposures associated with a lot of the smart beta products on the market today. As you recall, we create portfolios in the smart beta universe that target specific anomalies out there, including having a lower volatility portfolio, a smaller portfolio, a cheaper portfolio, etc. Let's take a look at what a portfolio that's targeting a high dividend yield might look like. So I built this portfolio, said, look, hey, I want a high dividend yield. I have a benchmark against the Russell 2000, and I have a tracking error of 2%. If you do this, you see, yes, in fact, I do have a higher dividend yield than the benchmark. That is good and intentional. But at the same time, I have this negative bet on price to earnings. I'm cheaper, which actually is good based on the anomaly literature. But at the same time, I see that I am uh, bigger than my benchmark and I have a higher growth rate than my benchmark, both of which are kind of the wrong way to be exposed in terms of the anomaly literature. So here, again, intentional exposure on dividend yield and three unintentional bets that are in there, even though it was in no way, shape, or form part of the strategy. I did the same thing using an earnings yield. So yes, you do in fact see here that on a price to earnings basis, this portfolio is much cheaper as targeted. A really nice bet here. I also see that surprisingly, given what we saw in the previous example, that my dividend yield is lower. I also see that my earnings variability is higher. So again, have my nice intentional bet here, and I have two kind of negative unintentional bets associated with this particular strategy. Did the same thing with momentum. So again, we can see here, yes, I have more momentum than the benchmark. At the same time, I have a negative exposure to price to earnings, which is favorable, although it's a bit unusual. This is, a recent portfolio that I created, and value has been doing pretty well. Oftentimes, when you have a momentum portfolio, you will see the opposite, where you are a little bit more expensive. Again, here we can see that on a size basis, this portfolio is larger. We can see that on a price to revenue basis, it's more expensive than the benchmark. And finally, we can see that the volatility is higher for this product. Again, negative anomaly bets that we're taking here just to get this momentum exposure. Let's do the same thing with volatility. So yes, here, negative exposure to volatility, which is good. We see smaller than the benchmark, which is good. But then we also see, hey, this thing's really expensive. Surprisingly, we see that it has a low momentum also on there. And finally, the growth rate is larger. So again, what we're seeing here is a targeted exposure and lots of unintended exposures. Finally, size here again. Yes, so I managed to get smaller than the benchmark. Good news is I am cheaper on a revenues basis. Bad news is that I'm pretty expensive in terms of an earnings basis, and my momentum is negative. Finally, earnings variability is positive. So again, here target exposure and unintentional bets that are probably going to hurt me. So what I want you to do here is when you're out there looking for a smart beta manager, you want to find a manager who is aware of these unintentional bets and is actually doing something about it. I intentionally didn't in these cases, so you could see what kind of unintentional exposure you would have, but that is only going to make your bets associated with that targeted anomaly worse. So your performance is likely to suffer if you're using a manager who is not, making corrections for these types of unintentional bets. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Brian Kozlowski.